A few years ago, I realized something that honestly bothered me. Most of my reactions, my habits, even how I felt about myself the second I woke up, weren't things I was choosing. They were just running on autopilot. So I started digging into how the subconscious mind actually works, and I built a system for myself that I still use today. In this video, I'm walking you through exactly what I do in 8 steps, no fluff. If you appreciate me making this type of content, let me know by gently tapping that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's dive in. Step 1. Here's why I started paying attention to this in the first place. I learned that my subconscious mind, the part I'm using right now to talk to you, is slow. It questions things. It can only hold few thoughts at once, and it gets tired. My subconscious mind is the opposite. It's fast, it's running in the background 24/7, and it doesn't question anything I feed it. It just accepts it and acts on it. It's the part responsible for my habits, my instant reactions, even the beliefs I carry about myself that I never actually sat down and chose. The thing that really got me was learning that my subconscious doesn't know the difference between something that's objectively true and something I have simply said or imagined enough times. I used to fear speaking in front of people, but by practicing little by little every day, I became more confident. Once I understood that, everything else I'm about to show you started making sense. And I will say this upfront, I'm not into meditation or anything spiritual. This is just how memory and habit formation work. Repetition strengthens neural pathways. That's basic learning, not magic. Step 2. My mirror repetition drill. This was the first thing I actually started doing, and it takes me less than 2 minutes. I stand in front of a mirror, look myself directly in the eyes, and say one sentence out loud. Mine is something like, I'm capable of handling whatever comes today. I say it 5 times slowly, holding eye contact with myself the whole time. The first thing I did this, it felt genuinely ridiculous. But I have come to realize that awkwardness is actually a good sign. It means my conscious mind is pushing back, which tells me I am reaching past the usual filter and speaking directly to the part of my mind that actually needs to hear it. I do this once a day, same time, and I give it a full week before I even judged whether it was doing anything. The reason I stuck with it is repetition, not motivation, not willpower, not one good pep talk. Every time I repeat a thought or a phrase, I'm strengthening the pathway that thought travels on, like walking the same trail through a field over and over until it veers into a path. I walked it once, nothing happened. I walked it daily for weeks, and it became the easiest route to take without even thinking. It's not about being perfect for 21 days. Real habit change often comes from months of consistent repetition. Step 3. My two daily windows. I learned my subconscious mind is most receptive to new input in two specific windows, right when I wake up and right before I fall asleep. My brain is in a slower, more relaxed state during those windows, and my usual conscious filter that questions everything is weaker. So here's what I actually do. Instead of reaching for my phone the second I wake up, I spend 2 minutes picturing exactly how I want my day to go, in specific detail, not a vague good day, but the actual moments. How I want to handle the meeting I'm reading, how I want to carry myself, what I want to say. I do the same thing right before bed, but I picture the version of myself I'm working toward becoming. I start my mornings by avoiding distractions, writing down my top 3 tasks, and focusing on the most important thing first. 2 sessions a day, 2 minutes each, is genuinely enough for me to feel this compound over time. Step 4. How I catch my own negative self talk. I noticed I used to say things like, I'm so bad at this, or I always mess things up, without even realizing it, and I eventually understood I wasn't just venting, I was handing my own subconscious a direct instruction it would take at face value. The tricky part was I didn't even notice I was doing it because it had become completely automatic. Because noise, I would say it so many times, it didn't register as a thought anymore. It just felt like a fact. I'm too busy right now. I will focus on myself later. So now, whenever I catch myself saying anything, I stop and immediately replace it with a neutral, specific version instead. Not fake positivity, specific truth. Instead of, I'm terrible at this, I will say, I haven't practiced this enough yet. Instead of, I always mess things up, I will say, I got this part wrong, here's what I will adjust next time. I'm not lying to myself either way, I'm just giving my subconscious something accurate and workable instead of something exaggerated and permanent. Step 5. How I add emotion. I learned my subconscious doesn't just respond to repetition, it responds to how much feeling is attached to what I'm repeating. When I used to mutter an affirmation while thinking about my to do list, it did almost nothing. Saying the same sentence while I actually feel it, present, and engaged, lands completely different for me. That's why real experiences, an embarrassing moment, a proud moment, a scary moment, can shape a belief instantly. Sometimes in a single occurrence, while a repeated but emotionless habit takes me weeks to actually feel. After making a mistake, it was how I responded afterwards. So here's how I use this on purpose. Right after my morning visualization, I spent 60 seconds naming three specific things I'm genuinely grateful for, and I actually let myself feel it instead of just listing them mechanically. This gives my subconscious a positive emotion state to attach to my morning. And over time, it shifted my baseline mood because what I consistently focus on with real feeling behind it is what my mind starts noticing automatically. Step 6. What I stopped consuming. I realized every video I watched, every conversation I have, every piece of content I scroll past is an input, and my subconscious doesn't filter. So, for what's helpful versus harmful, it just absorbs it, especially when I'm consuming it passively and repeatedly. When I was spending an hour a day on content that was angry, fearful, or comparison driven, that was exactly the raw material my subconscious was working with. Whether I meant to feed it that or not, I reduced watching random YouTube videos and replaced them with learning videos. I'm not saying I live in a bubble now. I just stay aware that inputs equals raw material. So I chose what I'm feeding myself on purpose instead of by default. Step 7. How I found my own core belief. I noticed a lot of recurring patterns in my life, the same argument, the same money worry, the same relationship dynamic on repeat, and I traced them back to one core belief underneath it. For me, mine was something like I used to think I had to get everything perfect before starting. That probably came from being afraid of making mistakes. I didn't consciously choose it. It picked up from a moment or a season of life or something said to me enough times that it settled in and started acting like fact. Here's exactly how I found mine. I grabbed an actual pen and paper, not my phone, and finished this sentence 5 separate times. I didn't overthink it. I just wrote whatever came to my mind first each time, as fast as I could. When I looked back, one theme kept showing up, even worded differently each time. That was the belief my subconscious had been quietly operating on. I circled it, and that became the exact thing the rest of these steps were working to replace. Step 8. How I designed my environment. I realized my environment was constantly feeding my subconscious cues, whether I was paying attention or not. The clutter on my desk, the people I was most often around, even the wallpaper on my phone. These are quite repeated inputs absorbed the same way as a spoken affirmation, just slower and more passively. So here's the simplest thing I did. I picked one spot I look at multiple times a day without thinking about it, my phone lock screen, and I put the exact phrase from step 2 right there. They turned into a passive repetition running quietly in the background of my entire day, layered on top of everything else I was already doing. Before you go, try all 8 of these steps tomorrow. One honest things I will admit, I almost quit on this in the first couple of weeks. I did one round, felt nothing dramatic, and almost wrote it off. But think back to the trail metaphor from step 2. A trail worn in over years doesn't disappear after one day of not walking it, and a new one doesn't appear after walking it once either. My subconscious was built up over years of repeated inputs, so it was never realistic to expect it to shift in a single session. What actually worked for me was treating this like brushing my teeth, small, unglamorous, repeated daily, not a one time fix. I wake up, visualize for 2 minutes, run my gratitude practice, do the mirror drill sometimes during the day, catch and reframe my self talk as it happens, run the belief excavation once early on, keep my phrase somewhere visible, and visualize again before bed. That's my whole system. All 8 steps stacked into one simple daily rhythm. If you liked this video and learned something useful, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below.